Hello fellow Rotarians. I think you would agree, as we do, that youth protection is a vital part of our interaction with all young people.
This is simply because their health and well-being are paramount.
In this session, we will cover all our responsibilities as Rotary Club members.
How to recognise abuse in children and what you should do if it becomes apparent or any child discloses abuse to you.
And importantly, our reporting guidelines. There are many components to the way Rotary protects children and young people who are involved in our programs and activities.
Specifically, we are going to talk about the Working with Children check that members may need to obtain, the Rotary Youth Volunteer Information and Declaration, or RYVD forms that members and volunteers need to fill out, annual reminder training that you are doing right now, the records that your club keeps about those forms.
Now let's have a brief look at what is meant by abuse and harassment. Note, this is not intended to be a highly detailed discussion.
Those of you who are or having been engaged in paid employment for education, health or law enforcement will have received far more detailed training than what we are doing now. Let's now look at the 5 most common categories of abuse. The first type or class of abuse we are looking at is neglect. Neglect is when a parent, guardian or caregiver cannot regularly give a child the basic things they need for their growth and development. This includes having a safe place to live, food, clothing, medical and dental care, adequate supervision and sufficient parenting and care. Parents also have a duty to protect their children's rights. The next class of abuse is sexual abuse involving a child in sexual activity, including adults using their power over children or taking advantage of their trust. It is a crime for a person to groom or procure a child for sex with them or another person. This includes exposing them to inappropriate pictures or people. The next form of abuse is physical abuse, including any non-accidental injury or pattern of injuries to a child or a young person, not providing sufficient nourishment for their needs, the requiring of an unreasonable amount of work, or inflicting any physical pain.
The next type or class of abuse is emotional abuse. This means damaging the confidence and self-esteem of a child or young person. In general, it is how many times and how long the child is harmed that determines its impact. For example, excessive criticism, the withholding of affection, any exposure to domestic violence, and any intimidation or threatening behaviour. Lastly,
we will review key aspects of sexual harassment. In some cases, sexual harassment precedes sexual abuse and is a technique used by sexual predators to desensitize, confuse, or groom their victims. Any sexually motivated advances, including comments to the effect that the adult finds the child or young person sexually attractive, or unwarranted or inappropriate physical contact, such as brushing or touching. A child may disclose information purposefully or accidentally. They could simply blurt out a harmful experience or indeed their fear of something. It may be that a child may disclose information purposefully or accidentally about situations they have encountered. They may confide privately that they have been abused or have a fear that they will be. Sometimes they will tell another child. A child might disguise a disclosure by posing a "what if" or "a friend of mine" type scenario.
There is no doubt that all this is tough territory for you. So here are some tips that will help guide you should you find yourself in this position. Firstly, try to make sure that the child or young person isn't disclosing where everybody nearby can hear them. Importantly, reassure them that they are doing right thing by telling you. Tell them that you believe them and that you're there to support them. Be careful not to let them see any reactions of shock, disbelief, or fear. Explain that you will need to tell someone in order to make it stop, and ensure that this doesn't happen to anyone else. Try not to make promises you may not be able to keep. For example, that you'll make sure nobody ever hurts them again.
Your role is not to interview the child or gather evidence. This is the responsibility of specifically trained caseworkers or police officers. Ask simple questions that establish facts: who, what, when, and where. Avoid asking any why questions. Importantly, avoid criticising anything that has happened or criticising anyone involved. At all costs, avoid blaming the young person. Tell them it is not his or her fault and that it was brave of them to come to you.
As soon as possible, after any disclosure, you should write down what the child or young person said or did, using their exact words where possible, also while capturing the date of the conversation or incident. Upon hearing any allegation, members should not determine whether the alleged conduct constitutes abuse or harassment. Instead, after ensuring the safety of the child or young person, the member should immediately report all notifications or allegations to the club president for club programs, or the district youth protection officer or district governor for district programs, before they contact the children's helpline. The member or club president can contact district youth protection officer if they need assistance in making the report. The District Youth Protection Officer, in consultation with the District Governor, will also provide advice about any additional reporting responsibilities. Most important of all, any notifications or allegations must be reported to the district.
Remember, any member of the community who suspects, on reasonable grounds, that a child or young person is at risk of significant harm can report their concerns to the Child Protection Helpline on 132 111. You can make this report or any serious disclosures made to you straight after you inform the club president for club-related programs, or district governor or district youth protection officer for district programs.
You yourself do not have to be certain. You only need to make sure your concerns are well-founded and based on information you know or have come from a reliable source. Effective youth protection and compliance relies on every Rotary member doing their part to fulfil these requirements. By keeping your Working with Children check up to date, being sure to complete Rotary Youth Volunteer Information Declaration forms when needed, and in completing this club training, by filling in the Rotary Club Insurance and Compliance Declaration, which seeks information annually about your club's compliance, namely, that your club is familiar with the Rotary International Sexual Abuse Harassment Allegation Reporting Guidelines, that your club completes this annual Youth Protection Procedures training.
All this can seem a little bit concerning. However, by being aware of the implications and our role in youth protection,
then we will be all better able to keep young people safe when involved in Rotary activities.
In closing, we thank you for your participation.